let's go into what an EKG is. So guys, as we see, EKGs really are just a picture of your heart. So if you guys saw my other lecture about EKGs, in that an EKG really is just a picture of your heart itself, that's all. And I always draw this too big, but let me show you. You guys usually see an EKG looking something like this. And most people, when they see it, they're like, they get so much anxiety and they're so stressed out and they don't know what to do because it's a whole bunch of squiggly lines on this piece of paper. But guys, let me break it down to you very, very simply. It really breaks down into 3 parts. And there's really only 5 steps to measuring and interpreting any EKG in 15 seconds or less. Your first little lump is called a P wave. So we know that is a P wave. And a P wave is really just a contraction in the heart. All an EKG really does is measure movement. It's just earthquake paper, I like to call it. So if you think about your heart, let me erase this here real quick and get some more room. If you think about your heart, in terms of our 4-bedroom suite, I like to call it, what are the upper chambers of the heart called? And if you made it in this far in nursing school and really want to know about EKGs, you should know the anatomy of the heart. So if you don't, that's totally fine. But the upper chambers of the heart are called the attics, I like to call them. Or we call it the atrium in medical terminology. Those are the smallest portions of the heart itself. It receives blood and then pushes that blood, when it contracts, down into the lower parts of the heart, where the lower parts of the heart fill, and guess what it does next? That's right, it contracts out of the lower parts of the heart. So the blood fills in here, shoots down through our valves, I like to call them, or we can call them our French doors if it's our 4-bedroom suite, into our greater master bedrooms, the ventricles. Alright? So these are the ventricles down here. So, what are these French doors called? These French doors are called the tricuspid valve on the right side and the bicuspid valve on the left side. And here's really an easy way to remember that. Make a gun like this. No, I'm just kidding. Make a gun like this, put it across your chest, and how many fingers do you have on the right side of your heart? I'm sorry, the right side of your body? You have 3 fingers, right? So that's your tricuspid valve, that's your right valve. On the left side of the heart, you have your bicuspid valve, right? Because you have 2 fingers on the other side. So tricuspid, bicuspid, that's how I remember it. So the atriums push the blood down into the ventricles, and this process is the first thing that happens in the cardiac cycle, in terms of contraction. So what do you think is the first thing that shows up on our earthquake paper? That's right, a P wave. And this P wave is what? Well, I always ask my students that. What is the first thing that contracts in the heart? Atriums, right? So, this is pretty much our P wave. Simple enough, right? Our P wave is our atrial contraction. So, I'm not going to go into all the phases about atrial contraction, but something that we know is that when the atria squeeze, right? Atriums are squeezing, we can say that they're squeezing. The ventricles are getting loaded here. Womp, womp. As the atriums are squeezing, the ventricles are loading. There's a few phases to atrial contraction. I'm not going to get into all of them, but I'd like to mention the last part, the atrial kick. trying to push all that blood down into the heart. And that last part, to get that last piece of blood, that last portion of blood down into the heart, is called the atrial kick. And I like to say it's like a suitcase kick. You know, like when you go and pack your bag full of clothes or souvenirs after going on a long vacation, and you can barely close your suitcase. You like to give it a kick, right? Just to zip it up. Kick and zip, right? That's what's going on here in the atriums. Atriums, push, 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 squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Then the last part, atrial kick, kicks the rest of that blood down into that ventricle. And this atrial contraction is pretty much your P wave. So that's the first part of your EKG. Secondly, guys, is the phase where it swells, okay? So we have this isometric line, I'd like to call it. Isometric line in the EKG basically means we had no action before. We had this big P wave contraction, this big atrial contraction, this big atrial kick. Then it comes back down into swelling, right? So swell, swell, swell. And what's swelling now? What's the second thing that contracts? Where's the blood going in the ventricles? It's going to the ventricles. I just gave you the answer. So it goes back down to a isometric line. Then, when the ventricles swell, 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 are ready to contract, my French doors close, my bicuspid, tricuspid valve closes, and the ventricles are now ready to contract, right? To send out that charge, to send out that blood, to decompress itself, right? And that's what's called a depolarization. Decompressing, basically pushing it out, just sending out that charge, boom, 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 sending it away. And that's what shows up as our QRS, okay? QRS. So QRS. And I'm not sure if I'm really writing that big enough for you guys, but QRS. Now, in EKG terminology, the QRS is your ventricle depolarization. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, crazy words. Why are you using so many big words? And all it really means is the ventricle squeezing, okay? P wave is the first thing to show up. So what's the first thing that shows up when you squeeze your heart? Atrial squeezing. Second thing, guys, the ventricles. What's the second thing that what's the second thing that shows up on the paper? Your QRS. Now, these ventricles squeeze, right? So that squeeze is that QRS. Now, what happens when we squeeze and relax? So when we relax, what is that called? So if we depolarize something, what do we have to do to recharge it? To basically relax it? To repolarization. Yeah, that's right. So repolarization. Refilling, we can call it. Relaxing of the ventricles. And this relaxing of the ventricles, going back to my isometric line here, happens in the form of a T wave, we call it. A T wave. Make sense? Yeah, pretty much, right? So that P wave, boom, that big atrial contraction, or QRS, that boom, big ventricle contraction, and then we have that relaxation of our T wave. Basically what goes up must come down. Yeah, caught it. And then the whole cycle happens all over again. Now that's what's supposed to happen, okay? And that's just talking about the mechanics of the actual anatomy of it. We haven't even gotten into the electrical part of it. So let's go into the electrical part of the PQRST, atrial depolarization, ventricle depolarization, repolarization. Let's go into the actual electrical part of it. And the electrical part of it that we're going to go into right now in this next video I really like to break down as a car, okay? Now, I use cars a lot in a lot of my videos because a lot of us have cars, right? We can relate to cars. We might not know everything that goes on in the car, but we can relate, right? And really, cars have doors that can open and close, yeah? Open and close. What do cars also have, though, that help it run? Other than the engine, other than gasoline, it has an electrical system. Basically a battery, right? So this battery up front helps run the whole car. And these batteries have little electrodes going to the back of the car to help light everything up in the car. So I talk about this as being your SA node, the big battery of the heart, going to the middle of the heart, which is your AV node, your backup battery, down to the pacemakers, the ventricular pacemakers of the heart. And we're going to go down to basically explaining what happens when you break down, or what happens if there's a breakdown in these systems. Because our atriums and our ventricles are really just the doors. Unless we bend the door or break a hinge off in terms of our actual mechanics, the physical portions of the heart, like our ventricles or our valves, or say our ventricles get hypertrophied in heart failure, or say this left ventricle is getting hypertrophied because there's so much pressure and backup for that afterload to happen. That's what happens when our car doors start breaking down. We're not talking about this right now. What we're going to be talking about right now is about the electrical system of the heart. Okay? The electrical system of the heart, exactly kind of like the same thing as the electrical system in your car. So let's do it, guys. Let's go into it right now.